They said the Russian bear was invincible. They told us sanctions would just bounce off the Kremlin's armored hull. They told us that the vast, frozen empire could endure anything: war, isolation, economic siege. But if you look past the propaganda, past the military parades in Red Square, and past the shouting pundits on state TV, you see something terrifyingly different. You don't see a fortress. You see a building whose foundation has turned to sand, while the roof is on fire. This isn't just about the front line in Ukraine anymore. That's a meat grinder, yes. But the real story, the one that history books will focus on when they write the obituary of the Russian Federation, is happening thousands of miles away from the trenches. It is happening in the grocery aisles of Moscow, where grandmothers fight over blocks of butter. It is happening in the dark, freezing apartments of Novosibirsk, where the heating pipes have burst for the third winter in a row. It is happening in the secret ledgers of the central bank, where the gold bars are being quietly sold off just to keep the lights on for one more month. We are watching the systemic, total collapse of a superpower in real time. And the scariest part, it's not an explosion, it's an implosion. And when a country with 6,000 nuclear warheads implodes, the shockwave doesn't stop at the border. Let's start with the sky. For decades, Russia boasted about its sky shield, the S-300s. The S-400s were supposed to be the best air defense systems on the planet. Nations around the world lined up to buy them. Turkey angered NATO just to get them. India paid billions. But in 2025, that shield isn't just cracked, it is shattered. We are seeing Ukrainian drones, cheap plastic, sometimes made of cardboard, flying hundreds of miles and challenged into the heart of Russia. They aren't just hitting refineries anymore. They are hitting airfields. They are hitting ammo dumps. They are hitting the very factories trying to build the weapons to stop them. Why? Because Russia has stripped its own defenses bare. To survive the meat grinder in the Donbas, they had to pull their air defense batteries from the Arctic, from the Chinese border, from St. Petersburg. The largest country on earth is now essentially undefended. The emperor has no shield, and the Russian people know it. Every time an air raid siren wails in Moscow, it hammers home a single, dangerous truth: Putin cannot protect you. But the missile strikes are just the fireworks. The real war is being lost in the kitchen. Have you checked the price of butter in Russia lately? It sounds like a joke, doesn't it? A superpower brought to its knees by dairy products. But in late 2025, the price of a simple block of butter in Moscow soared by over 34%. Supermarkets have started locking butter in anti-theft cages, right next to the expensive liquor. Why? Because the economy is overheating to the point of combustion. Putin has pumped trillions of rubles into the war machine. He's paying factory workers double, triple their normal wages to build tanks that get blown up a week later. On paper, it looks like growth. GDP is up, salaries are up, but it's a phantom economy. There are no goods to buy with that money. The workers who used to drive milk trucks are now driving APCs in Ukraine. The farmers who used to grow feed are dead in a trench. So you have a country awash in worthless paper money, chasing fewer and fewer goods. That is the textbook definition of hyperinflation. And look at the National Welfare Fund. This was Russia's piggy bank, the rainy day fund built from the decades of high oil prices. It was supposed to guarantee pensions for the next generation. It was supposed to modernize the country. In 2022, it held over $113 billion in liquid assets. Today, it's down to barely $50 billion. They have burned through more than half of the country's entire savings in 3 years. And now, they are doing the unthinkable. They are selling the family silver. Intelligence reports confirm that for the first time, Russia is mass selling its gold reserves on the domestic market. They are liquidating the only real asset they have left to plug the holes in the budget. When a government starts pawning its gold to pay its soldiers, the end isn't near, it's here. But surely, they still have oil, right? The black gold? Yes. But look at how they are moving it. This is the story of the shadow fleet. Because of Western sanctions, legitimate insurance companies won't cover Russian tankers. So, Russia went out and bought a fleet of zombie ships, hundreds of rusting, decrepit tankers that were destined for the scrap heap. They turned off their transponders, painted over their names, and filled them with millions of barrels of crude oil. These floating time bombs are navigating some of the world's most dangerous waterways without insurance, without oversight, and often with untrained crews. We've already seen the near misses: a collision in the Danish Straits, an engine failure near India. It is a mathematical certainty that one of these ships is going to break apart. And when it does, it won't just be an ecological disaster. It will be the moment the world finally shuts the door on Russian oil for good. India and China are happy to buy discounted crude, but they won't risk their own coastlines for it. And speaking of China, let's talk about the friends Russia has left. Vladimir Putin likes to talk about the multipolar world. He talks about his no-limits partnership with Xi Jinping. But take a hard look at the trade data from 2025. Russia hasn't pivoted to Asia. It has been swallowed by it. Russia is now completely dependent on China for everything from microchips to cars to machine parts. Just 2 years ago, Chinese car brands captured over 50% of the Russian market. But now, even the Chinese are pulling back. Dealers are closing showrooms. Why? Because the average Russian can no longer afford even a budget Chinese car. Russia isn't a partner to Beijing anymore. It's a vassal state. It's a gas station that China owns the keys to. Xi Jinping doesn't need to invade Siberia to take its resources. He can just buy them for pennies on the dollar because Russia has nowhere else to go. But the most devastating collapse isn't military and it isn't economic. It is biological. Russia is literally dying out. The demographics were bad before the war. Now they are apocalyptic. In 2025, Russia's birth rate hit a 200-year low. You have to go back to the Napoleonic Wars to find a time when fewer babies were being born in Russia. Think about that. The Tsars, the Bolshevik Revolution, the Civil War, Stalin's purges, the collapse of the Soviet Union. Through all of that, Russians had more hope for the future than they do right now. Young women are refusing to have children in a country that promises them nothing but war. And the young men, they are either at the front or they are gone. The brain drain of 2022 and 2023 saw over 1 million of Russia's brightest minds flee to Tbilisi, Dubai, and Belgrade. These were the IT specialists, the engineers, the doctors. The IT sector alone is facing a shortage of 500,000 workers. Who is going to code the banking software? Who is going to maintain the servers? Who is going to program the drones? They are gone, and they aren't coming back. You can print rubles, you can build tanks, but you cannot print 30-year-old software engineers. You cannot manufacture a generation of lost fathers. This winter, the reality of that labor shortage is going to hit home literally. Remember the heating outages of 2024, when people in Podolsk were freezing in their apartments just miles from Putin's palace. That was just the trailer. The infrastructure in Russia is ancient. Most of the pipes were laid in the Soviet era. They have a lifespan of 25 years. They are now 50 years old. They need constant maintenance. But the welders, the pipe fitters, the engineers who fix them, they were mobilized. They are digging trenches in Donetsk instead of fixing pipes in Chelyabinsk. We are looking at a winter where entire cities could go dark. And cold does something to people that politics doesn't. You can ignore the war on TV. You can ignore the price of butter if you tighten your belt. But when your child is freezing in their own bedroom, the fear turns into anger very, very quickly. We are already seeing the cracks in the social contract. The mothers of mobilized soldiers are organizing. The wives are protesting. It's small now, but revolutions always start small. They start with a bread riot. They start with a frozen pipe. They start with a mother who has nothing left to lose and who is waiting in the wings. The warlords,